it made a massive impact on our business when we chose to go with Probook. I mean, we saw immediate growth. I mean, the year that we launched Probook, which was in January, was the largest growth year that we ever had.
Welcome to the Reimagining Home Services podcast. I'm Brady Jolly with my partner and COO, Scott Sharrock. We lead a rapidly growing plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and water cleanup business, and we're on a mission to run a $100 million company. Join us as we walk through the challenges, decisions, and lessons that come with that journey. Welcome back. I am pumped for today. We've got our boy George Eliadis from Probook with us today.
Boom.
He's coming all the way from New York. We're actually going to be visiting him in New York in a couple weeks. So George, thanks for coming on, man. We're pumped to have you.
Brady, Scott, thanks for having me, guys. You got the last name right too, which is
nice.
Not all that common on these things. So much appreciated and pumped to be here.
All right, before we start with you, we got something to talk about. Today is Scotty's birthday.
Thanks,
Big 36,
man. Yep.
Dude. Happy birthday.
36. Feels good.
Scott, happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
Closer to 40. How's it feel?
Feels great. You know, hairline's still the same, so I can't go backwards there. Played basketball today. A little fun fact, old man ball. Won all 6 games.
I did hear you complaining about a bruised toe.
It was a toe. Yep,
okay.
Toe got me. Back's good, though, so we're good to go.
So, dude, why don't you kick us off?
What time did you play basketball this morning?
We start at 6 a.m., and I think our first game, it was actually before 6 today. It's a blast, man. We got a great group of guys down here at the office and guys that work with us, play with us. It's been fun.
So, dude, George, we've been working with you guys now for, I think, a year and a half on dispatch, here a little more recently on front office AI. Is that what we call it, front office AI?
We're undergoing a bit of a rebrand right now, but I think that's fine.
Nice.
Okay.
Gets the point across.
Yep. Cool. So it's call center we're using for some overflow, after hours answering, for like outbounding campaigns, like think chirp, hatch, that style thing. And then of course for dispatch. So you guys are like as fully integrated into Jolly as any other technology. And it's been fun, man. It's been awesome getting to know you, getting to know your team. So we just want to talk about it, talk about your journey. We are like fascinated. How old are you? Are you 23, 24?
I'm 24.
24, nice. Dude. What you've done so far in your career at 24 is so cool. You're just killing it, man, taking the industry by storm. So congrats on your success, and we just want to get into it. Scott, why don't you kick us off? I know you got some questions for George.
Yeah, George. So obviously I know your story, but why don't we give the listeners kind of your story about Probook, how it started, your experience. Just start us there.
100%, and appreciate the kind words, guys. It's been a great partnership. I started Probook to actually solve a problem in my own business, really. I pressure wash houses in upstate New York, where I grew up for, call it 6 years, with my dad. And we'd covered about 6 counties. So I'd spend 2 to 3 hours of my day just driving between jobs, because we get our first call and it would be, 45 minutes north of us. And then someone would call us for an estimate, like 45 minutes south of home. So we'd have to go 45 minutes and then another 45 minutes. And we were just zigzagging all over the place. I'd be up on a ladder washing a house, and I would physically miss phone calls for estimates because, can't really hear your phone ring when you're on a job. Those machines are really loud and they vibrate. And so there's just a lot of frictions that I faced running my small business. And turned out that power washing doesn't use a lot of software in general.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a pioneer, if you will, but pioneering the transition from literally zero software to software is, going to be a challenge, and not necessarily where I wanted to use my energy. And so ended up doing some more exploring, spent a good amount of time in painting. Actually ended up working with the largest non-CertaPro, non-franchise painter in the Philly tri-state area, this company Nolan Painting, for about a year. And we built some, good scheduling software for them, but realized that, painting wasn't the right long-term market for us to be in. And so ended up moving to home service or HVAC or plumbing, electrical, as you guys
Yeah.
know dear and well. And a few years ago, went to some conferences, visited a bunch of shops like near where I was going to school, and ended up like befriending and building a really strong relationship with Brian and Jim Sloan over at TR Miller.
Our boys.
Yep.
Brian's going to be on the podcast soon.
Brian's the man. Jim's the man. I ended up going out to visit. I actually failed a class while I was out there visiting. Almost didn't graduate because of it. And Brian actually said he'd stop using our software if I didn't graduate. But we ended up graduating. Not my co-founder Ben, but I ended up graduating and spending some time out there. Went back that summer. Ended up like spending that summer in dispatch and call center, and really got into the weeds and realized that the problems that I face in my own business, albeit they look a little differently here. There's plenty of problems to be solved, and no shortage of like really hard, like last mile problems, if you will. And so I know that was like a long-winded kind of journey through how we got into the space, but dispatching for dollars in particular was a really big opportunity because you've got your group of technicians, and each one of them has a different level of performance at each of your different types of jobs, and it's just difficult for a human dispatcher to really be on top of that and not leave money on the table while also delivering a good customer experience, because threading the needle into the front office piece of this a little bit.
Yeah.
But
thanks for sharing that, George. And I'll say, like, I'm a people person, and as we have this huge AI boom and there's lots of options, we are so grateful that we landed to be partners with you because of just who you are as a person. And I think that's important to talk about. And just the dedication you had to the trades was, hey, this is what I want to build. But you were in a trades company, learning dispatch, learning right tech, right job, learning job matrices and tech priority matrices. And it made a massive impact on our business when we chose to go with Probook. I mean, we saw immediate growth. I mean, the year that we launched Probook, which was in January, was the largest growth year that we ever had. We added 10 technicians and were able to reduce our dispatchers by 2. So we had 2 entire dispatchers for the entire company, grow by 40%, and run at the highest efficiency that we ever had. Now, there's other pieces that go there, but Probook absolutely was a piece of that. So thanks for the introduction. Tell us a little bit more, because Brady alluded to it, right? We're on the frontline package, or the whole office, whole home. Tell us what Probook actually offers. So we just talked a lot about dispatch, but there's a whole lot more to that, and we use a whole lot more than just the dispatch function.
Yeah, so everyone started in dispatching, right tech, right call. You guys had a great year, and you guys did a bunch of things, but grateful to have been on that journey. The next thing we've built that kind of took dispatching to the next level is just a more automated version of dispatch that we call touchless dispatching. We're actually kind of like phasing out the old version of dispatching and just calling everything dispatching. But this is the version that does not only setting the board and right tech, right call, but we're actually listening to your phone calls, digging into old equipment, photos of data plates, basically cleaning up your data, and also communicating with your customers, not just giving them, ETAs throughout the day, but calling and texting your customers when they're ready to be seen next in line, following up on chats using AI, so dispatch doesn't have to be in the chat all day long, following up on parts. And so we went from just simply doing right tech, right call to doing the communication and the data cleanup that dispatchers used to do.
Yeah.
And then we realized that, like, hey, dispatching, it's really central to everything. And it's really like where the customer experience kind of like lives or dies. We're really well positioned to now build the rest of the funnel. And so we built, a voice agent that you guys are using for after hours and overflow. We actually have some partners that are using us as frontline, or first line of defense. And so they have our agent take like all of the calls and then upfront, and then anything that we, either can't handle by design or the customer chooses to escalate to a person, we then escalate up to their people. And the other thing that we, built that you guys are using is, we call it our outbounding or demand generation function. And this is actually bore out of, a conversation that I think Brady, like you and Scott, like we all had this conversation, early last year, which is like, hey, your guys' customers get texted from like 5 different phone numbers, and it's not a great customer experience. Like, imagine, put yourself in your customer's shoes where they're having one appointment with Jolly and they have to get texts from 5 different providers.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like not great. And so we realized that we're doing a lot of communication for dispatching, and we really also understand capacity well and how to, predict demand. What if we built, outbounding that could be plugged into the same phone number as our dispatching communication? If we could do, open estimate follow-up from the same phone number as our dispatching communication, it's like now your customer gets texted from literally one number. Like, it's just one number
Seamless
that a Jolly,
experience.
customer needs to interact with, and there's far fewer seams. And so we've kind of brought that all together, and then the end result here is like, you guys can just partner with one, group that really understands how to do that end-to-end experience. One relationship for your team. It all talks to each other, and most importantly, your customer has everything kind of in one spot. And so from a product or platform perspective, that's what we've been building. We actually now call it our AI operating system, to just be more, more general. So that's what I was getting at with the kind of around the front office. We've done a bit of a rebrand, but that's not out to the world yet. I guess it will be once this makes it out.
Love it. Yeah, once our millions of viewers see it, it'll be out to the world.
200 people are going to know this. It's going to be really awesome.
So, dude, I think that it's a massive advantage that you guys have, that the genesis of your product was dispatch. I think that's unique to everybody now is creating these front office AI or operating systems, whatever you want to call it. It seems like a lot of companies are doing that. I think your advantage is in dispatch, dude, because we've seen it. That's like the nuts and bolts of where you can really have a financial lift for the company, and you can see it, you can see it. One of my favorite things to show people when we're doing a shop tour is I love showing them your matrix. I love that matrix that you guys have. It's just sweet looking, and it's exactly what every operator wants to make sure that their batting order matrix, whatever you call it, is in line. So just talk about how that genesis, starting in dispatch and getting really good at that, has helped you build everything else out.
Yeah. And so the analogy I like to actually use here is we're kind of like a punching bag, if you will, because when you're doing dispatching and right tech, right call, you're making decisions that impact technicians and their livelihoods, right? And so what that also means is when you screw up, you hear about it, right? Because technicians are going to put, pressure on their dispatchers, on their service managers. That's going to bottle up to, you guys, which comes over to us because you guys are, who are ultimately paying for Probook and depending on it to drive a good customer experience. And so that's all to say the sheer quantity or volume of feedback we've gotten from our customers over the past 3 years of doing dispatching is just off the charts, because every day we're doing everyone's dispatch board, and so we've got everyone's technicians' jobs as opportunities for feedback when we don't actually even have to screw up. If we just do something controversial, it creates feedback, right? And so we get a ton of feedback that has really gotten us a really deep insight into the edge cases, if you will, that go into running a business of your guys' nature. And the thing is that dispatch is so central to everything that the feedback we get touches everything. So we just fundamentally understand the business at almost a molecular level at this point because of the amount of really deep feedback we've gotten. And then on top of that, the data we've got, because dispatching touches everything. It touches the call center. It touches, financial performance. We now have a data model that we can, build voice around that works, really, really robustly. And then I think the last kind of thing, and there's almost this trifecta, is that the customer experience is dispatch. I know everyone's very focused on top of funnel, and that's where, pretty much everyone else who's building these front office AI tools started. Top of funnel is just getting the customer into the top of the funnel. Dispatch is where you actually fulfill that experience, and there's just a lot more surface area to screw up, if you will. in dispatch. And so there's just more opportunity to create good customer experience. And there's just a lot of context that we have that allows us to build the top of funnel tools in just a really differentiated way. So definitely align with you guys that dispatch is kind of where everything starts.
Yeah, I think that a mistake that a lot of technology companies make is they don't give the customer insight into like what the product's doing. It could be a great product, but the customer can't really see what's happening. So then like, in this case, dispatchers would be questioning it, ownership's questioning it, management's questioning it. You guys have done a really good job of making that all. It's just out there. You can see it. One of my favorite things to do is click on every single job type and see the difference of what like our A player versus our worst performer in that department. How they're performing. Like there's certain times in HVAC where the difference of if we would dispatch the worst performer versus the best performer in that department, it could cost the company like $7,000
on one call.
on one service call. That's like one of the most eye-opening and mind-blowing things ever, because it doesn't, like, of course, everybody in our business is sophisticated and running the business how they should. They're using matrices. I mean, you have to do that, right? But still, if there's a human making that final decision, there's a lot of feelings that go into it. We got a tight culture. We love our people. We want to give people at bats. We want to, when somebody's like, man, give me an opportunity, we want to do that. And we still have ways to do that with Probook, but it just changes how you feel about that when you're like, this is a $7,500 decision if we send this person versus this person, or a $2,000 decision or whatever it may be for the department. So I applaud you guys just for doing that. I think it's really cool. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was just your service model. That's a differentiator for Probook. We've used, how many partners? Tons of partners. We have good partners, bad partners. We've used a lot of them over the years. It seems like we've tried just about every technology in the trades at this point, and you guys stand out on service. That doesn't mean that everything's always perfect. Like there's been challenges and there's been with every technology, but you guys are Johnny on the spot with it and really committed to making it work. One of the things that stands out to me, we use Discord, which is weird. Like that's our Slack. We're unique in that. It works really good, by the way, but we're unique in that. You guys you're like, yeah, we don't do Discord usually, but boom, we're signing our people up. We have a Discord channel for
our whole
Probook.
team.
Our whole entire team is putting stuff in there regularly. You're just like so committed. Other companies are like, yeah, we don't do Discord. Sorry, you're gonna have to do our way. You guys
send in a message to support.
Yeah. Call this number. Send a message to support. You guys are like, we're in. So just talk about your mindset on service. Why is it so important to you, and how do you guys get so good at it?
Being integrated into your Discord is pretty cool in retrospect. Definitely a bit more logistically challenging as we've grown, but we built a system for it, and we're still there and still responding. I think in this particular space, when you're signing up for Probook, and I don't think we knew this as explicitly as we do now back when we first partnered, but you signed up for Probook to create a business outcome. Like you were trying to change something at Jolly, which when we started in dispatching was removing the bias out of dispatching so we could consistently assign techs to the right calls and see the financial benefit of doing so, while also creating the opportunity to run more leanly. And so getting those outcomes requires change management. And there are just a lot of edge cases and a lot of opportunities for things to not happen as expected. And my view has always been, as a founder, that the burden is on us as the service provider, because we're delivering a service, we're delivering an outcome, to make sure that that outcome gets achieved by all means possible. And support is one of those things that it's a lever we can, in our complete control, impact to drive our outcome, right? And so if we're trying to get the outcome of driving right tech, right call, and the associated increased average ticket along with that, and we've gotten something screwed up in our setup and we're not setting techs to the right calls, that's our opportunity to make a change in your setup and actually drive that outcome. And, we've grown, but we're still very much a startup. We have infinite urgency around making sure that we get to those outcomes. And so if I'm working with Jolly and Jolly bought us, partnered with Probook to do X, and we're not currently doing X, there's just nothing more important in our business than making sure that we can get you to X.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the ethos we brought into our strategy, and why, like, we joined our, your Discord channel, our other, partners, teams, Slack channels. It's just the quickest way to get to a successful outcome. And it's just been like embedded in how we do things. And that now we like invest really, really heavily in our support model to, continue to have really tight responses, but not just quick responses, like responses that actually solve and address the root cause of any issues. And so we're very focused on, support. And I know we've kind of like taken a real like support angle there. But I think more importantly that we do now that, is really important is just change management.
Mm-hmm.
People partner with Probook to drive an outcome, and it's on us to drive the change. And that starts before joining Discord. That starts in implementation and making sure that everyone in your org is actually, rowing in the same direction. And we've all got consensus about what outcomes we want to drive. And so basically all that means is we're doubling down on being white glove and really making sure that our partners are seeing the outcomes they're signing up for.
Yeah, one of the things I loved with your support team was the onboarding experience. Honestly, it's like a differentiating factor. Like I say this story all the time, but what you guys did during the onboarding is bringing a team on site for multiple days, not only helping you implement, but teach and talk about the why. So you mentioned like the change management. I've never had that experience before. And think about how many softwares we've used and vendors and partnerships. There's been nothing to match. And I just think that's important for the listeners and the viewers is that it's hard. Like launching AI and application, it's hard. And you got to have the right partner to do it right. And we talk about it in the office a lot is the way I look at AI is like an employee is we have to coach and train that just like we'd have to coach and train an employee. But typically we only have to coach and train it once, right? Where an employee might have to come back. Like when we teach and train Probook and have the operational rules and the changes, it's permanent. Like it's fixed. So I think you guys do an amazing job. And that's what I love about Probook and constantly talk about you and your team. And it was just an awesome experience. So we talk about service support, talking about like the onboarding experience, how great Probook is. What are you seeing with trades companies specifically? What's the biggest challenge for them moving to any AI products or even specifically to Probook? Like what's the challenge?
Yeah, I think there's like two types of challenges here, and I'll give a general challenge and then I'll give like a Probook related challenge. I think there's a lot of noise and a lot of hot air in the space. Mm-hmm. And I'm self-aware. I understand that, Probook is in this group of folks that are, building for the space, but there's just a lot of noise out there.
Totally.
And so we're really conscious of how do we create a really differentiated evaluation experience for our partners. Because there is just so much noise out there and we are like truly, truly differentiated. And so that's kind of like one of the things that I think is just out there. And that just makes evaluating AI difficult because there's so much out there and it's easy to get evaluation or shopper's fatigue. Now, I think with Probook, what we see sometimes that could be a challenge is not actually understanding exactly what business outcome you're looking to drive when you work with us. And what I mean by that is a lot of folks are like flocking to AI just because it's trendy. Maybe a friend of theirs has recommended that they try us. And the challenge with that is like we're going to hold you accountable to mm-hmm. making the change that you're signing up for, and that change can be uncomfortable because it involves changing actual human workflows. And so there's things we do now around having a really tight statement of work that actually gets into the exact workflows we change when we work with you. But if you're not truly honest with yourself around like, what do I want my business to change and how do I want it to look differently after partnering with us or any AI tool, you're gonna have some hurting once you kind of go through it. And so I think this is on everyone in the AI space. Educate your customers around what their change is going to be like. Be really transparent around it, and I think that's going to lead to better outcomes. And I think that's one of the things that's really important to us, because there is so much noise around AI, and we have folks that come inbound to us that want to sign up for Probook and don't actually understand like what actual change this is going to make in their business. And it's like, all right, let's slow down. Let's actually talk through the outcomes that are available, and what your business might look like after Probook. And it's slowing down to run faster in the end. You build more consensus.
Yeah, Scott alluded to it, but I think that when I've heard of AI failing for people, it's when they're just like, yeah, bring on this partner and just come on in and like, let's hurry up and go. It's just not like that. It's a lift. Any AI implementation is going to be a lift. You mentioned just the noise within AI in our industry. I think the perfect example, like I met you in 2024 at Super Meeting. Forget where it was, maybe Arizona or something, but I met you at the trade show, and that's kind of where this Orlando, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And that's where this relationship started, I believe. Might even have been 2023 or 2024, but I remember that year when I met you, the trade show at Nexstar was completely different that year. Completely. Like literally the year before, there was like 0 or 1 AI company there. Like, and they probably weren't even really doing AI, whoever was there, and then the next year it was like every other booth was AI, and just like that, so we've seen that. We've seen some of them fail, some of them separate, companies like you that are doing great. I heard something the other day that the world's going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in the last 100 years, with the AI boom. And we're seeing that. We're in the middle of that, right? How do you see it from your lens and your company, but also just the whole lens of AI and technology and the trades? Like, what do you see the next 5 to 10 years being like in the trades from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, I think the answer is going to be consolidation. I think people are just going to use, fewer tools that are going to create more and more value. And I think things are going to basically default to being, like outcome oriented. And we're seeing a lot of, other kind of technologies shift to actually having their pricing models be outcome oriented. And I think, the noise is going to continue to kind of grow, just because that's what happens with, markets that happen to be good opportunities. But I think there are just going to be, fewer and fewer players that are able to like drive real differentiated value through the moats that they've built over the past years. And it's hard to say like exactly what that level of like impact will look like for the actual business, just because of the fact that a lot of what's possible is going to be bounded by like foundational models, and there's so many different theories around like how good the foundational models will be over the next year, the next 5 years. But I think there's also like a point where for our particular space, this is really going to be won by whoever can get the most amount of like last mile edge cases figured out. Because there's a stat somewhere I read where like if your use case or your workflow can be automated to 100% or between 80 and 100%, you're pretty at risk in being commoditized or built as a feature by one of the foundation models like Anthropic and OpenAI. Yep. But if your workflow is tricky enough where it's really only automatable to between 50 and 70 or 60 and 80%, that's really where businesses are going to be built, because there's enough last mile wizardry that you can't just get built into Claude Fable 5. And so
coming out
that's
soon.
kind of our thinking. that's what I'm thinking. Like, just being able to solve the really, really nitty gritty last mile problems is, the the way to create value and be a real long term durable
And there
partner.
are just so many of those last mile issues in our business. I think that's what's shocking to a lot.
Too many.
George, what do you think? What excites you the most about the home services future? So 5-10 years. Obviously, you guys, I don't know if exclusive home service, but most home service companies. What excites you about it?
I think we're going to be able to actually like make true on our mission. I think about like my dad, who runs our small pressure washing business. He is never going to use software unless it runs his whole business for him. And I think we've got, a ways to go until we get there. We have our, intelligence layer, but I think we're going to make a lot of progress towards, that over the next, 5 to 10 years. So, arming someone like my dad to not have to think about software is really exciting. And I think that's what we'll be able to make more true on over the next few years.
Oh man, that's sweet. I love that. So I know you have a big announcement that's going to be coming out soon. We're actually going up to New York in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah,
a couple weeks to celebrate with you. So by the time this podcast comes out, that's going to be out. So tell us about it. What's going on?
Yeah. So June 23rd, we'll be announcing. It's kind of weird saying it just because this will come out after. But we'll be announcing $40 million of fundraising across our seed and Series A rounds. Yep. It's been a long time coming. We raised $34 million from Andreessen Horowitz and $6 million from Sequoia. So two of the, best capital partners in the world, who have been really great partners to us and, building our business. So really jazzed to be announcing that. Really
congratulations,
grateful for you guys to have included us in your podcast.
Dude, it's amazing. If you need any more hundreds of dollars from me and Scott of investment, just let us know. We'd love to get a bite of that apple. Hey George, how could people get to contact with you guys if they're interested in Probook?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, probook.ai, there'll be a button there that says talk to us, where you can, fill out some information, schedule some time with our team, talk to us. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can just Google me, George Eliadis.
Google me,
baby.
Google me. And then you can use code Reimagine so that George can give us a discount on our next invoice. I'm just kidding. Dude,
back
you're the man, George.
When I first started doing these, I used to give out my personal number on them, and I don't do that anymore. Not that I have like a problem with it or anything, but go to our website, find us on LinkedIn, and use code Reimagine.
There's nowhere to put the code, but you can try it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, seriously, you're the man. Can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us, with us. It's been a really cool relationship. Looking forward to a lot more of it, man. So anything we can ever do for you, just don't hesitate to ask. And we're going to be looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, man. It's going to be fun.
Great.
We appreciate it. We're excited to have you here in the Big Apple.
Heck yeah, man. So for everybody listening, if you could subscribe, like us wherever you listen to the podcast, and comment any topics or any guests that you'd like for us to have on in the industry. Thanks so much for joining.